Good morning. The next two lessons in the Zornhau from Ringeck's gloss lend themselves to some nice flow drills on the Pell, so we're going to practice them that way. Let me go ahead and read to you what the Zettel and gloss is for this section, and then we'll take it from there. So the Zettel section that we're working with is whoever aims the war above, he will be shamed below. And Ringeck explains it like this. Perform the war like this. When you hew in with the wrath hew, as soon as he parries, rise well with the arms and wind in the point at the sword to his upper opening. If he then parries the stab, remain standing in the winding and stab the lower opening with the point. If he then continues to follow after the sword with the parry, move with the point under his sword through and hang in the point above to the other opening of his right side. In this way, he will be shamed above and below with the war if you otherwise can correctly perform the movements. So we're essentially flowing through the four openings on the opponent with the thrust from this Zornhau and winding that we've seen already. So from out of distance, the way I like to do this on the Pell is I will cut and then wind up because I want to threaten this upper opening. If he's defending that, I'm going to do the disengage we've seen before to the lower opening. If he falls down on my sword, I'm going to roll through to his right lower opening all the way up to his right upper opening. And so we're just cycling through the threats until we can get it. So cut, wind, disengage, lower opening, upper opening. And I think this is a good opportunity to practice being able to do the inner and outer windings from each position. So we can definitely wind in and out and thrust, disengage, wind across, thrust, wind up, thrust. So we're just practicing being able to do the winding, keeping our point more or less on line all the way through these four openings from this initial cut. So this is a good thing to practice, especially if you have a nice narrow Pell and you find your point deviating a lot. This is a good way to practice cycling through the four openings of your opponent. The next section, Ringeck, Lichtenauer and Ringeck just say, be able to find all three wounders with the winding, so that we have the ability to stab someone, cut someone, or slice someone. And this is really based on the distance where you're binding. So we can again start out of range, and if I cut and then wind with my point in line, it makes it very easy to just stab them. So this is the longest range winding option. If I come in a little closer, and when I cut, if you see my point is past my Pell. So if I wind, I'm not going to be able to thrust very well, but from this closer opening, I can use this same turning motion to allow my point to come around. And so I can still get a nice back edge hit with very little motion because I'm still using the winding. And if you want to use a little kick with the back foot, that works well too. So from this middle distance, a cut is the most appropriate way to hurt them with the winding motion. Now if we get super close, now most of my sword is past. It's very hard to get any kind of a powerful cut from here, but I can wind up, make sure that my sword is in contact with my opponent, and now I can do a nice push cut, and that's the slice. So what we're being told to do is to know, based on our positioning and our range, what is the most appropriate way to hurt the opponent with this winding motion. So one more time, at the longest distance, we wind and thrust. At the intermediate distance, we wind and cut. And at the close distance, we wind and push, cut, or slice. So this is a good way to practice this on the Pell, and you can start to ramp up the pace between these three so you can get a nice sense of what is the most available option to you. So these are the next two lessons in the Zornhau section, winding through the openings for the thrust and then using the appropriate wounder based on distance for the wind from the Zornhau. So go ahead and play with those, and we'll jump into the next thing next week.